focus on your goals. I think that many times we will get things that happen in our life that, we're thrown curveballs, right? We don't know. Life is not linear. There are steps, and there are turns, and there are U-turns, and a lot of things that happen. And I think that regardless of those turns and those U-turns and things that happen in our lives, we need to stay focused on our goals. I think it's really important to be at a very early age. And it's not just about saying goals being, I want to be an attorney, or I want to be a doctor or engineer, or I want to be a business person, entrepreneur. It's more about, what are you trying to change in the world?
Welcome to Game Changers Live from Miami, Florida. My name is Sergio Tigera. I'm your host. And each and every week, we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and successes, so that we can inspire you on your journey. So let's get started right now. And welcome to Game Changers Live from our studio home here at FIU's College of Communications, Architecture, and the Arts. My name is Sergio Tigera, your host. Thank you so much for being a loyal supporter and loyal listener to Game Changers. We're now a top 2% podcast ranked globally by Listen Notes. So thank you so much. We have tremendous value here each and every episode because we interview people who have been game changers in their field and have impacted the lives of thousands, and really to inspire you on your journey. So my guest today is Dr. AnthonyCruz from Miami-Dade College Kendall campus. He's the campus president of one of the largest, not only campuses, because his campus alone has 21,000 students, but Miami-Dade College in general has, like over 120,000?
Yeah, 120,000 students.
That is unbelievable. Right. So Anthony, you've been doing, so first, welcome to the show, my brother.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Great to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. So listen, tell me a little bit about your background, because I know you came to FIU, right?
As an undergrad, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So tell me about your story growing up. What were some of the influences in your life as you grew up to kind of get you to where you are today?
Okay, great. Well, I was born in Chicago, lived there till I was 9, and then my family and I moved here to Miami. And so grew up in Miami, basically went to, elementary, finished elementary, high school, went to Killian High School, and graduated from Killian, came here to FIU and did my undergraduate work here. Then straight away went to get my master's in public administration at Florida State and was there for a couple of years. Influences, I don't know. I think that, interesting enough, I think my parents, probably the biggest influence. My parents came from Cuba in the early 60s, and very hardworking people, always told me that going to college was an extremely important thing. They didn't get the chance to do that. Right. And so as a first-gen college student, that was something of an influence, of them pushing me to do that and influencing me in that regard. So I think they were probably my biggest influences growing up and making that a priority. I did do a really interesting internship when I was in high school in my senior year. Worked with an attorney in the state attorney's office, John Kastrenakis.
Nice.
I think he's currently still a judge. He's a federal judge now in Palm Beach County. And at that time, he was a prosecutor, and really gave me like a really big view of the world. It was like a real world view. Working in the prosecutor's office, going to trials with him, doing all these things. At that time, I thought I wanted to be an attorney. That was the idea, I guess, of doing that internship. But in addition to that, not just about that, but it just opened up the whole world of, he talked a lot about college. He had gone to the University of Florida, was a big Gator fan, and talked a lot about that. Treated me really great. Treated me, even I was a kid, 17 or 18-year-old kid at that time. Really gave me a lot of insights into college life, how important college was, and all that kind of stuff. So also a very important influence kind of early on, and kind of boosted that idea of, hey, college is important. Make sure that you pick, get a good career out of it, that kind of thing. So very early influence, but again, very important one. And so I came here to FIU. Like I said, at Florida State. Graduated from there, and at that time, this is early 90s, there was a recession going on. I was trying to get a job as something like in county government, city government, because my idea was to become like a county manager, city manager. That was the idea with the master's in public administration. And nothing came up at that time. And I was up at Florida State, and I saw a bulletin that talked about that back then they didn't have, you didn't go online.
Yeah, the bulletin boards.
Bulletin board with jobs on it. And FIU had a job opening here as an assistant director in admissions. So I got that job, and that's what really started my career in higher education.
So I was
1993. I just graduated with my master's degree, came back down to Miami and got a job with FIU and did that for several years. Worked here for several years, and decided after a few years, I was doing really well here. I said, you know what, I'm going to take a whole other, I guess, career shift. And I became a financial advisor.
Really?
And I became a stockbroker.
No kidding.
I did that for 3 years, worked for Prudential, worked for Charles Schwab. 9/11 came around and market crashed. And I don't know, it was a very difficult time, obviously for everyone, we went through a very difficult time, but the financial markets had really gone through a severe, severe time. And, I decided to get back into higher ed. And so I started looking around, got a job with a small for-profit university, Kaplan University, that now got bought by Purdue in the last few years. It was all online, online university. Did that for a little bit, came back to FIU, started working here again, worked another 5 years here. And we're at this building, like I had told you.
Nice.
This building we're in right now, I used to work in this building when I came back.
There you go. This is the architecture.
The architecture building. And was here for a few more years until I decided to make a shift in my career, started working at community colleges. So I started working at Broward College as an associate dean, went on and moved with my family to Cincinnati, became a dean of students there in Cincinnati.
Wow.
Then became a vice president of student affairs at St. Clair Community College in Dayton, Ohio. Then moved to St. Louis and became a vice chancellor of student affairs in St. Louis Community College.
Gosh.
And I was fortunate 4 years ago to come back to Miami to become the president of the Hialeah campus of Miami-Dade College. Did work there for a couple of years. Also ran both campuses, the Hialeah campus and the Kendall campus, for about a year.
Right.
And then now I've been at Kendall for about a year and a half, just Kendall campus.
That is a whirlwind tour.
But that's 30 years.
That's
I just went through 30 years of work. So.
But it's a lot, right? And did you have children at the time when you were in the Midwest?
Yes, I did. So my kids, at the time that we moved from Miami, this was in 2009. My son was 12 and my daughter was 9. And then we moved to the Midwest.
So those are critical years. And I know having kids now, I mean, I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. Those are critical times for them because they have their friends, they have their comfort zone, they got their school, and then you pick up and move and that's hard on them. That's hard on you guys.
Yes.
How did you deal with that?
Well, it's tough. And I think for them, they adjusted pretty well, though. I think that, interesting enough, and I'll just say, fast forward a little bit. So, now they're adults, right? And they love the Midwest. So basically what happened was, I think we picked the right time for this.
Yeah.
In the sense that 12 and 9 were a good number because at least, especially for my daughter, it was 9 because it's before you get into that middle school age and things like that. It gets a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
I think they handled it really well. I don't know if there was the adjustment period was quicker than my wife and I anticipated. We made a lot of good friends in Cincinnati. That was the area that that we were living in for a while. Even though I worked at Dayton. We kept on living in the same house, so that didn't create another move.
Yeah.
And by the time we moved to St. Louis, they were already in college. My son was already in college, and my daughter was starting college. So
it's a little better. Yeah, they had already gone through the high
So it was
school.
Only one big move, but it is a culture shock. I mean, you go from
100%.
You go from being a population is 75% Hispanic or whatever it is in Miami, or 80%, whatever the number is, to being 2%, 1%, and that in itself creates some challenges, some interesting conversations that happen with people. People are not very aware of the different countries represented by
Hispanics and ethnicities,
and so there's a lot of educating going on with people, but overall, extremely positive experience.
Right.
I guess it was so positive. My kids, they'll visit, but they love living in the Midwest.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to live in the Midwest coming out of FIU. I went to Central Illinois for about 3 years in Decatur and
Decatur?
Peoria.
And Peoria, yeah.
Because I worked for Caterpillar. That's in the middle of the cornfields.
Yeah.
And that was, 22 years old and, straight out of college. And again, huge culture shock going from, all your Hispanic friends and family here in Miami to no one to, kind of Midwest. And then, from warm to cold, from everything was different. But at the end of the day, it was a blessing because the Midwest, I think, has just the nicest people that you can find.
I agree. The stories that I can tell you, the stories I could probably write a book about. The experiences that we had there that were just extraordinary. That you would think, no, it's not real.
Yeah,
the way people,
how kind they are. They're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? What do you want from me? Right? You're like, you can't be this kind normally.
Yeah. Why are you saying hi to me? Why are you
saying good morning?
Good morning. Right. What are you trying to sell? Right. Or something. Yeah.
That's funny. All right, cool. So you're back here in Miami College to switch gears. After the pandemic, things have changed quite a bit. Obviously, they've accelerated. But you're leading, one of the largest, if not the largest, college campus in the States. How are you seeing that educational landscape changing, and how are you guys keeping up with everything?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest changes, and you use the right word of acceleration. So I think that already higher education had been moving more and more towards a virtual environment, right, and having more options for students and more flexibility when it came to how we offer our courses to our students. Obviously, the pandemic forced us, right, to go 100% virtual at one point, but since then, what we've seen is that students still prefer a pretty high level of being virtual or hybrid, like kind of taking classes that are in person and also online. And that accelerated that process. If it's something I read before the pandemic showed that over the next 20 years, higher education is going to be much more virtual. Well, I think that the pandemic accelerated
forward
that probably
like 10 years or something.
It did. Yeah. It really did. It pushed it forward and actually accelerated that to a point where now it's not that we have a lot of students on campus, but they like the flexibility of taking a few classes online. So that combination of in-person and online and that virtual element, that flexibility, they really enjoy that. So I think we have to cater to that. We have to make sure that, we're in a business, we're an education business, but we have to make sure our clients, our customers are our students. So we have to make sure that we're giving them the opportunities and we're giving them the options that most appeal to them and their lifestyles. And we know that we have most of our students work at least part-time. Yeah. Vast majority work at least part-time. Many of them work full-time. So they have to have options available to them that before maybe weren't available. We didn't think they needed it. Right. Now, coming out of the pandemic, and now that we're, like I said, a lot of stuff is happening on campus, a lot of activity, but nonetheless, the online or that virtual component is going to be is here to stay with us. And that's something that we've seen that just with enrollment, right? When we look at enrollment patterns, students continue to pick those classes at least as one option. Maybe they take one or two of these classes online. Maybe they don't take them all online, but they like to take a few of these online.
You lead a small city. We were talking about that earlier. How many employees are there in just the Kendall campus?
There's over 1,000.
So over 1,000, 1,000 people. Leading 1,000 people is not easy. Obviously, you created a culture where people feel engaged, they feel seen, they feel heard. Part of that is due to your leadership philosophy, right? Kind of pull back the curtain. Tell me what are the principles that drive you that are just consistent, that keep showing up, that people love to see.
Right. I think being authentic is really important as a leader, and sometimes you have to show that you're vulnerable, right? I think that they're human, and I think showing that. And one thing that I really have been able to take advantage of during the pandemic was because I had to was how do you communicate with people, right? How do we get in front of people more? And so the social media became a bigger part of my life and bigger part of what I do as a leader, because I think that's the best way to reach people, whether we're talking about students or faculty and staff. And really at some point, that was the only way I could do it, right? And during the pandemic. And then as a result of that, I've used that as a platform to show, my authenticity, to show that I'm engaged with the community, to show that I'm engaged with our students on campus, to show that I'm engaged with our faculty and staff. It's easier to do that with social media than anything else.
Sure.
But you have to show, both sides. I think you have to show, yes, I'm always professional in whatever I do, but I show, what I'm doing as a leader of an institution, but also what do I do as a family.
Yeah, you can have some fun and you're relatable.
With my family, how do I do with what I do with friends? And, always trying to show both sides of that. So even like, for example, my Instagram, I have one Instagram account. I don't have one for work and one for play, right? But I try to keep everything professional at a professional level, but it may get personal in the sense I may share something about my family. I may share something about my friends, an experience on vacation or whatever the case may be. But I think that shows our students, it shows our faculty and staff, it shows our community that I'm human. Even though I'm a leader of a relatively large organization, that I'm here, that I'm a person just like they are.
Exactly.
And I think that engagement is extremely important as leaders. We have to show that. So I think the authenticity is important. Really being available and to engage with others is very important for me. And then it leads to collaboration, right? So I think that one of the things that I enjoy the most is collaborating with people whether it be on the campus, but also in the community. There's so many people that I've met, like yourself and others, that it's just based on getting out there and being a little bit vulnerable and just sharing and becoming, friends and colleagues with people that I would have never met just a few years ago. But I think it's getting out there and putting yourself out in the community, I think is extremely important to me as a leader in order for me to really help our students as well. Because I think everything that comes back to that, everything that I do professionally is to help our students. So I'm making connections. I want to, sometimes they come out as being something that they'll bear fruit when it comes to helping our students. And sometimes it doesn't, but that's okay. Then I've made a friend or made a colleague, doesn't matter. But ultimately, I want to make sure that we're providing the best opportunities for our students.
And I tell quite a lot of colleagues and other individuals who are either aspiring entrepreneurs or they're business owners or whatever they are, getting out there and showing up is half the battle, right? There's
for sure.
Number one, the social platform gives you social proof, right? That you're out there doing things, right? Because in today's world, if you don't have the visual proof that, hey, they're out there doing things, it's like, did a tree fall in the forest? Did it make a sound?
Exactly right.
So you need to demonstrate that, hey, you're out there and you have the great hashtag, the trendsetter, which I love, which is also about branding. Branding is a huge value these days, that everybody has a responsibility to build their brand. And it's not an egotistical thing, but you're building yourself on behalf of an organization. You're representing them well. So being out there is absolutely critical. And like you said, being relatable to your students. You play pickleball, right? So you love playing that.
I'll play whatever. I mean, I've done whatever with I play cornhole with them. I'll play ping pong. When I was in Hialeah, I played ping pong with the students on the ping pong table. And it doesn't mean I'm spending hours doing that. But I think if I go out there for a half hour and do something like that with students, they see it as like, hey, he's relatable. I can really see that this person cares enough to come out here and play with us. Do this. Do this activity that's really, maybe it's not that meaningful, but it's meaningful in the sense
to them it is, that connection. Because he's like, hey, I played pickleball with the president today, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I think that the branding is really important. And the trendsetter, by the way, is not a name I gave myself. It was actually
awesome.
a great friend and colleague, Ellie LaRosa, which I gave her the connector.
The connector. There you go.
So, I think, but it's about creating those relationships, about, engaging with other people, building those friendships, building with those relationships to make sure that ultimately you're making the organization better. Mm-hmm. You're making the student experience better, and then you're also making your community better. I think that's part
at the same
of it.
time.
It's also about that, because it's like these relationships that I've built over the last several years. It's also about making our community better. I want to make the community better. I mean, I want to make sure that people have more opportunities in our community, have better jobs in the community. I mean, all these things are very important to me. So when I go out to the different chambers that I partake in, I want to have those connections with people, with the business owners in the community, so they know about Miami-Dade College. What's Miami-Dade College doing? How can Miami-Dade College help them, help their business, help their employees become more productive? Yeah.
And so it's a blend. It's when you have all things kind of functioning, your home field advantage, as we call it, your home life, your work life, your community, it's all kind of blended in and balanced. It creates a really harmony, right? With what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah. You talked about collaboration and culture building with the organization, because we spend so much of our life at work. right?
yeah.
We want to go and feel good in a place where we work. So we recently had the pleasure of hosting the Game Changers 30-day challenge with the team. So we had a big kickoff meeting with about 100 leaders that Dr. Cruz selected, some of the top people. And then we had a 30-day challenge with it, kind of bringing everyone together around collaboration, trust, gratitude, team building. And then we had a recognition ceremony at the end, which was a lot of fun. So how was that experience for you guys?
Amazing. Yeah. It was a great way to, I think that we do a lot of the things that, like you were saying, showing gratitude and things like that, but this kind of brought it to another level. Right. And it gave us the platform to actually bring that communicate that at a large level, not just saying one-on-one, but we were sharing that, like you said, one person was sharing with another 100 people or 99 people, right? So that gave the platform for them to show that and really take it to another level. The level of engagement, as you saw with the activity, was unbelievable. I think they really got into it.
22,000 actions or something in 30 days.
In 30 days, which is crazy, I think. I mean, in a sense, like I never thought that would happen, but I think the platform that you use is awesome. I think that the work that you're doing is amazing with Game Changers. And I think that challenge shows that organizations, they can do so much more with their people, because it's not just, and I see it as a professional development experience for them, even though they didn't see it as that.
100%.
Maybe they thought it's just as a game.
Right.
But I think ultimately it's a professional development experience for them to say, how can I build in a team building exercise as well, right? So that we built that team. I think those individuals, those 100 people are going to come away feeling like they're part of something bigger than just their department. And we had talked about this before we even started the challenge, was that remember when you came into the room and everybody was siloed into their different areas, right? Like every table you had your public safety people, you had your academic people, you had your student services.
They all kind of grouped together with the people they know, like, and trust.
Right. But I think this exercise and going through the 30-day challenge opened up a whole new world, for them, of saying, oh, wow, wait a minute. These people are doing some great things as well, and learned about the great things that each of them were doing, where sometimes you're in your silo, you really don't know what's going on in another area of the campus, even because it's a large campus. So you got a lot of buildings, you got 13 buildings. Hey, you're in your building. Sometimes you don't, maybe that's the only people you see are the people in your building.
Right.
This enabled them to share experiences, share gratitude, engage with everybody across the campus, because we had such a great variety of people across the campus. Again, it's not everybody, but it's about, let's say, 10%, of the population of the campus took part in this. And so, I appreciate everything you and your team did with this, because I think it really brought a lot of great feelings, I think, and also shed light on the great things that we're doing as a campus.
Absolutely. You guys are killing it over there. And so thank you for trusting us with that. So if you were able to go back and either tell your younger self, your 17-year-old self, hey, listen to this. Okay. Make sure you do this right, or make sure you look at something this way. What would that be? Or if you're going to, give advice to a young, kind of aspiring student to say, hey, look, if you learn this lesson, man, you're going to be set. What is that?
Well, I think that I probably have lived this, but I think that I could have done better at it. Is focus, right? I think that focus on your goals. I think that many times we will get things that happen in our life that, we're thrown curveballs, right? We don't know. Life is not linear. There are steps, and there are turns, and there are U-turns, and a lot of things that happen. But I think that regardless of those turns and those U-turns and things that happen in our lives, we need to stay focused on our goals. I think it's really important to be at a very early age. And it's not just about saying goals being, I want to be an attorney, or I want to be a doctor or engineer, or I want to be a business person, entrepreneur. It's more about, what are you trying to change in the world? What is it that you want to, and I learned this a lot later, like I actually had an experience about 10 years ago that I went to an executive coach and had some coaching, and the coach said to me, like, what are you trying to do? Like, just in a few words, what is it you're trying to do in your career? Like, or what are you trying to do as a professional? What are you trying to do? And really what I came up with, and which other people have, this is not unique, is I want to change lives. That's like what I determined that I want to do. I want to continue doing that. And I do it through education. But other individuals have they could have their own focus in life. And again, it doesn't matter what education you end up getting or what career you go into, but you got to be focused that what is that one thing? What's your why, right?
Yep.
And what is your why, and follow that why as early as you can. Like, try to determine that why. Hey, when you're 16 or 17 or 18 or 19 or 20 years old, whatever. I know it's kind of tough because we're all, minds are developing still. We're not, I don't think we're fully formed as an adult at that point. At least mentally, we're not. But I think that we need to, that 18-year-old out there, 17-year-old should start thinking about what's my why, in very simple terms, and then build your life around that. And I think that will guide you and give you also the encouragement and the incentive to continue going, because you know exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
And again, it's not about the career, and it's not about how much money you make or the career or the education. That will be taken care of by your why, whatever your why is. So I think that's what I would focus on.
That's great advice. And to that point, there's so much noise, right, around us, especially as a kid today. It's just social media and everything else like that. It kind of clouds your thinking. But to that point of the executive coach, what do you want? What do you want out of life? What do you want for yourself? And it's such a simple question, but it's profound too, because it really makes you question, okay, what am I doing? If I don't like a sport I'm playing in, why am I playing it? Or if I'm doing something, I'm hanging out with the people that don't really, make me better
or contribute to that. Right.
What am I doing? Right. Because there's all these pressures in society, and kind of, we tend to do what the herd does. Right. But we don't kind of stop to say, okay, where do I want to go? And when you have that clear, it's great because you know where you're going, but you also clear up what you don't want in your life.
Yeah. It definitely makes it a lot clearer. And, it took me, that's, like I said, took a long time to get to the point of actually asking that question. Now, I think I was working towards that along the way. So it wasn't something that is like, oh, this is something brand new, but it gave me an ultimate focus, because, the changing lives part is not just about, hey, working at a college or university, but it's also about who I'm mentoring, who I'm working with to make their lives better as well. And that's a big part of what I do. At any given time, I probably have 2 or 3 people that I'm mentoring, because I feel it's a very important thing. For me, I didn't really have a single person, like that individual that was a big mentor in my life. So I always like to give back. If people ask me, hey, can you mentor me?
Yeah.
I'm pretty open to it, because I know that's so important. And it doesn't mean that we're going to talk every single week or maybe every month, but we're going to touch base. We're going to, use me as a resource. If you need to talk about something, some issue that you're having, some opportunity that's coming about, you want to talk about that, let's talk about it. It's really important to me.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Cruz, you've been a game changer, man, not only in our relationship, but in the relationship of so many. You've touched the lives of thousands. So keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for being on, sharing your wisdom.
As always.
All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here with us each and every week. We love to have you here. If you found some value in this, please subscribe, like, and share it with somebody, because you can be the game changer in their lives. See you next time. If you loved what you heard in today's episode of Game Changers, please subscribe and rate us. The lessons and the stories in these podcasts are immensely valuable, so I invite you to share them with a friend who needs to hear it. You may end up being the game changer in their lives.